Welcome, everybody. I'm actually seeing some familiar faces. I know we're a big group and I don't know who's coming every week, so it is nice to see some familiar faces again and to just know that we've gathered back together. And maybe even just taking a minute as we come back together, again, orienting to the here and now, maybe taking a couple of deep breaths, setting an intention for what this next 20 minutes could be for you in terms of, where you are today, what do you need, and how just even this pause, creating some time and space and attending to yourself, like what that might mean to you. And yeah, just take in, as you take some deep breaths, you might remind yourself of that as you prepare to come into this time today. Yeah, good. So as you're orienting to our space today, I'm going to do a quick review of all that we have gone through already together in our session. So just a reminder that this is finding calm in the storm using EMDR. And my name is Cara Dixon. I've been facilitating these workshops, and there's 6 of them. And we've been practicing techniques from EMDR therapy in phase 2. And phase 2 interventions are interventions that we use for preparation for reprocessing, but also for resourcing, being able to kind of strengthen internally, and giving ourselves the resources that we need emotionally to be able to face some of the things that we go through day to day. So we in just our past 3 sessions that we've had together, we've been learning to manage some of the disturbance and distractions that come up. We've been doing this through a technique called container and containment, and we've practiced that to sort of, as things come up, intrusive thoughts, memories, things we're not ready to come to terms with right yet. We've learned to sort of mentally and internally put those away, take things out in parts to come to terms with them and put them back when we're ready in our own healing journey. And part of that is learning how to manage some of the disturbance and distraction mentally that can come into our minds and disrupt us. Okay. We've also practiced state shifting. So we've used the calm state, and last week we touched on calm state. We activated a little bit of disturbance, and then we went back to calm state. So that was just a technique that we practiced very quickly, but to just show you how we shift states and how we can, when we're activated, kind of, be, rather than avoiding or detaching from our experience, we can kind of stay in it, but we can decide to bring our mind and our emotions and our body to another experience. And then we can, if we get activated again, we can notice that, how that makes us feel, and then we can shift ourselves back. And we practiced a little bit how to make that space safer and safer. And that's one of those techniques that really can take, the more we can spend time like reinforcing or practicing that, the stronger it can be for us. So some people say, well, it's hard for me to get there right away, or all of a sudden I'm distracted again. And that's okay. We're learning it, and we're working to develop it. It might not be automatic, but the more that you practice it, that's the skill that you're practicing. Okay. And then we've also done some, just along the way, some centering and grounding techniques. So we've used breathing. Our breath has been an anchor to the present moment. I talked lightly about how our mind tries to go forward to account for the future, which we don't have control over. Our mind goes backwards or to the past to try to account for, things that have happened. And again, it's just our mind doing its job. but both of those spaces are out of our ability to control and can be really destabilizing and produce a lot of anxiety because we can't control them. So even just centering or grounding techniques are really, we're working to bring our mind into the present moment, and we're working to just center in a space where we do have a bit of control. Okay, and then opening to that space and using kind of a neutral, so like breathing or recognizing like what it feels like to have our feet on the ground. We're using like our sensory awareness to bring us to a more neutral place in the present moment. Okay, so we've come pretty far. We've gone through a lot of different techniques and skills together. And last week, we also added bilateral stimulation. Okay, and in EMDR, I lightly touched on what that is. And I continue to link you guys to some resources to learn more about it. But in short, the bilateral stimulation is working to take any of the practices and strengthen them. We embody, for example, the calm state, and then we use the bilateral stimulation to strengthen that. Okay, so again, we have touched on exercises that sometimes I spend a whole session doing some of these exercises. So we're going pretty quickly through them, but the benefit is that these sessions are recorded. So if at any point, you want to kind of jump back in, and I recommend you can go through any of these exercises and pause it, like listen to my prompt, pause it, and let yourself be there for a little bit and then unpause. And so you can draw it out. You can also, I'm hoping to give a lot of education along the way, because if you have, you'll know what to look for, because there are other resources out there where some of these exercises are a bit longer, or you can bring this to your providers, your medical team, your therapist. A lot of people have heard of these or can direct you towards places to practice these more. So with that said, today we are going to do another skill. And again, a lot of our practices thus far have been kind of staying, using our mind and the power of imagery and kind of working to ground ourselves. We've done a little bit of body work just by finding the breath or using sensory awareness. But today I want to practice a technique that we call the light stream technique. And I'm going to practice it. I'm going to guide us through a script that comes from the EMDR Institute. So I want to credit them. And this technique is really about not necessarily like it's connecting sort of our mind to our body. So we're going to kind of drop into our internal experience, and we're going to notice some tension or some parts of our what's going on inside of our body, like how our body is responding to unpleasant emotion or sensation. With that said, this technique is not made to work with physical health pain, but it is working with what we carry in our bodies that connects to our emotional experience and sort of the pain or the tension that we can carry along inside of us. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like it's kind of like, okay, I know I'm not feeling okay, and I like, I don't know, maybe there's like, I'm feeling like sad about something, and then it's kind of like, where am I feeling sad about that? We can kind of feel sometimes we're a bit detached from our bodies, and we don't know where we feel that pain, and that's okay, or that tension. But if we're able to kind of drop in and just begin to kind of take notice, our body actually has a story to tell, and it's holding some of this, right? So it might be like I'm feeling tension like in my chest, and that's where the emotionally I'm holding it today. So rather than, sometimes that can be a cue to kind of like distract ourselves and do something else. Maybe it's too much emotionally to take on at any given moment, or you're not sure what to do with it. And so today I'm going to show you again this technique that's really, really designed to like go in, notice where that is, concentrate it, not detach from it. But we're going to actually do kind of work similarly as like state shifting to just see if we can kind of lighten it, relieve it a bit, move it around, allowing again, using the power of our mind and our that resource of our imagination to kind of bring in something that we need to help relieve that for us. Like I said, it's not for physical or some of our physical health pain that we might be carrying today, but our physical health is very linked to our emotional health as well. So if we're able to relieve some of like where we're holding things emotionally, sometimes that can also help lighten what we're feeling physically too. So I invite you all to practice this with me if it is any part. Usually when I do this in session, it's a dialogue back and forth with who I'm doing it with. So it's a little bit, can be a little bit challenging to do it with a large group, but it's definitely possible. And we'll kind of navigate that together. So if there's parts that you're, again, kind of confused about or not sure about, or you want more support with, just know that you can always like reach out to me after, and I can provide more information or recommendations about how to really customize it to where you are personally, okay? So let's practice together now. This is one again where we can kind of like access the power of our imagination when we close our eyes. When our eyes are open, we are cognitively, processing a lot. So when we close them just temporarily, if you feel comfortable with that, it just allows other parts of our brain to open up a bit. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can always just have a soft gaze on something in the room. You don't have to close your eyes, but allowing yourself just a few minutes, you can kind of like get comfortable in the seat where you are. Again, maybe using one of our centering or grounding techniques, whether it's finding your breath and taking just another deep breath in and out. Or finding your feet on the ground and noticing what that sensation feels like on your feet, using that. So you take some deep breaths, maybe even allowing your feet or your body to just sink into the chair or the ground a little more deeply today. And then taking a moment to just notice where you might be holding some tension. Again, just where or what you might be feeling or experiencing in this moment and where that kind of sits in your body in terms of what you might be feeling and where you're carrying that. And just taking a minute to concentrate on any upsetting body sensation, right? And we're going to see if you can notice that sensation as a shape. And if it had a shape, what would the shape be? If it had a size, what would the size be? If it had a color, what would the color be? If it had a temperature, what would the temperature be? If it had a texture, noticing what the texture would be. Good. And if it had a sound, would it be high or low pitched? Okay. So just noticing those qualities, again, where you're feeling that. And then I want you to think about your favorite color that you associate with healing. Okay, and I want you to imagine that this favorite colored light is coming in through the top of your head. It's directing itself at the shape in your body. The light is resonating, vibrating in and around it. And as it does, just simply noticing what happens to the shape, the size, and the color. Again, imagining that this favorite colored light is coming in through the top of your head. It continues to direct itself to the shape in your body, resonating, vibrating in and around it. Imagining that the more that you use, the more that comes. Good. And continuing to imagine that this favorite colored light is coming in through the top of your head, directing itself at the shape in your body, resonating, vibrating in and around it. Good. And as it does, just notice what happens to the shape, the size, and the color. Good. And so if that is getting smaller, and maybe for some it has began to dissipate, we would do this over and over again until it gets to that place where it's dissipating. And so this last time, I want you to imagine that this favorite colored light is coming in through the top of your head. And this time, if it is that shape has dissipated, I want you to imagine that it's spreading itself throughout your whole body, bringing a sense of peace and calm. And just noticing what that feels like as that comes into your and spreads through your body right now. So I'm going to count to 5 and then we'll bring back external awareness. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Coming back to external awareness. Might consider taking a stretch, orienting back. We took just a couple of minutes to drop in and we practiced a technique, again, that just is sort of checking in, trying to stay in our bodies, connected to our bodies, notice it a little bit differently. So we turned it into a shape, a size, a color, a texture. So we noticed it a little differently and then allowed ourselves to bring in that light and kind of work to move it around or bring it down. Again, I don't have the opportunity to check in with each one of you personally, or even, like I said, usually this exercise, I'm dialoguing back and forth and processing what that was like. This one is called the light stream technique. So, but it should give you enough of an example of, again, what this kind of technique looks like. Any of our trauma therapies where we're working with that quick, our alarm system and our defensive responses are sometimes to shut down or detach. And little exercises like this are kind of getting back in touch with our experience. And in working to kind of get some control over it, or I don't know about the word control as a good one, but just a little bit more grounded in being able to kind of stay in our bodies and work with it so it does not overwhelm us. And we realize that we're not it doesn't have to take us over. We can kind of claim back our own experience and what we want to do with it. So, and like I said at the beginning, it's also hopefully brought even a little bit of relief or relaxation to what you've been holding inside today. So as you prepare to head into the rest of your day, you feel maybe a little bit lighter as you go forward. So I just thank you guys again for being part of this workshop for us this has been something I've actually been looking forward to on Monday afternoons when I'm like, oh yay, I get a couple minutes to sit with you, everybody. And actually, I'm also practicing these techniques alongside of you. These are powerful techniques that, that we can use and tap into. So thank you for joining me and thanks for spending time with me today. I will see those of you who can make it next week.